Hi, it's Rupert Hine here from Action Coach near Kinross, and I'm joined today by Charles Balderston of the Vekta Group. Welcome, Charles.
Hi, good morning, Rupert. Nice to see you. Nice to meet you.
So tell us, Charles, who are the Vekta Group?
Um, it's funny because I had a conversation this morning with my team as well. They were sort of asking, why is it spelt like that again and things like that? Who are we? So, um, we're the short version in terms of starting what we do. I try not to start with that always, but we're ultimately a bunch of sort of slightly disgruntled, fatigued uh, ex-offshore wind and onshore wind renewable developers who've come together sort of post 2020, right in the middle of when COVID started, unfortunately, but who wanted to start a company that was more independent and more agile and open and honest. And we wanted to also explore not just traditional like engineering and consultancy for renewables companies, but we wanted to also invest and do a bit of a digital transfer of our knowledge and experience and tackle a lot of those issues in the industry. Um, and that's what we started investing in, at the late tail end of 2020. So the business is fundamentally split between consultancy and software services, and the consultancy is sort of dominated by electrical engineering and power system studies, and then geospatial sort of data and cable route analysis, things like that. And then the software team, which has been growing over the last couple of years, is trying to digitize our knowledge and experience into tools that helped us out a lot from consultancy initially, but then trying to bring to market something that is going to be affordable, reliable, trustworthy, and actually works in the real world on real projects rather than just something that like looks smart or has an AI badge on it, for example.
So
So
what?
yeah, that's who we are ultimately.
Fantastic. So you talk about that sort of slightly disgruntled group coming together.
Yeah.
What is it you're looking to achieve that you struggled to do within the big corporate world?
Um, there's a couple of things that happen within the big corporate world as well, is that they they struggle to offer like fast management of change, for example. So imagine if you're on an offshore wind farm project and you want to run 50 different scenarios, for example, and you want to sort of game theory about the best solution for your project, best CapEx, OpEx, there's lots of different engineers and people that you have to go to, or external consultants. And it takes a long time to get an answer, and there is no single platform or tool or facility to coordinate that very easily. And everyone was working off Excel, and a lot of people still do. So that is one of the problems of it's difficult if you go and ask one person in a project team, like, what does my project look like today? They'll give you a different answer from someone who sits three rows down. And that's another problem that we're sort of frustrated about. And being embedded in the project team, when you are trying to strive towards the use of innovation or the creation of a tool to make your life easier, or we want to just buy something, or work with a specific consultancy or company who provides a really great solution, the procurement of that process and the barrier to that is also very, very significant. And it's very low down on the priority list to spend money on because you're trying to develop the project and it's just go, 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 go. We have to deliver the project no matter what. We don't have time to think about stuff like that. So those are some of the problems that over time, after 20 years in, government or state kind of utilities and things like that, there's only so far that you can take the good fight internally to do stuff like that. So
Yeah.
that's why we broke out. And the other thing was, again, when I was trying to contract like external agencies or consultancies, for example, sometimes you would have there's a lot of disparity between what the developer wants and asks for in their scope versus what the consultant thinks they're doing. Um, and then it starts to sort of build contractual walls. It was like, well, we're not going to run that 50th scenario that you asked for without you paying another 10 grand for the privilege. It wasn't very like yet collaborative as it anywhere near as it should be. And that's not like their fault. They have, they're spending time and things like that, but it's also the developers don't always know exactly what they want. And I wanted to change that attitude by understanding both sides of the fence. So having a business that, while it might be costly to have that kind of attitude and relationship, um, it's better as a service. We're here to provide a service to make their life better, even if it has a little bit of commercial detriment to ourselves.
So in effect, you're you're trading a little bit of commercial efficiency for giving the client a win and banking goodwill.
Yes, it's banking future goodwill and banking future trust and reliability. Yeah.
So 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 when you think about that, you're just coming towards 8 years.
Well, it started when I used to work for EDF myself, and and that was when I went sort of contracting on my own. And then we started, myself and a couple of others who were, feeling that, in a similar position. We came together under like the Vekta Group banner in early 2020. So we're coming up to our fifth birthday as the business as it is now, where we set up properly in Scotland. We brought more people together. We started taking on employees, things like that. So yeah.
Yes. So when you set out and when you think about the success that you're creating, who's the first person who comes to mind when you think about success?
When I think about success, there's a couple of people who I sort of think about. For me, success is it's got nothing to do with like metrics like profit or meeting like strict targets, or we must sack 10% of our people to meet some kind of shareholder-based target. Um, I'm a great believer in uh, making sure the employees and that they are first, they are put first. The customer is not always right in that sense. You need to look after your team and build the team and build the right culture. And some of the people that I view in terms of successful at doing that, or talking about the mechanisms to create success in the culture, and also implementing that with respect to having a business that is driven by some kind of mission or vision, and it's something that is there to provide a recognition that they are a service company. We're not here to dictate or to be contractual or whatever. We're there to provide a good service, and we're there to make the clients and customers' lives easier, and as an act of service. And so, people like Simon Sinek, is someone who I admire on that, in terms of that cultural approach and what he's trying to strive to build and talk about. And there is another, and on the sort of scientific side of things, there is another sort of physicist who, Sabine Hossenfelder, is someone who I also admire in terms of her like direct and honest and also like realistic approach to learning and to getting people engaged with difficult and complex issues like you know quantum theory or climate change, or but in a way that it excites people about learning again. So, and that's another thing that is also quite hard to talk about, is if you're dealing with engineering or scientific problems, and climate change is something that it gets thrown at a lot of people, and you get very weary of talking about it, and you get very weary of seeing graphs and numbers and things, and people just switch off or glaze over. But she's excellent at getting people to engage, whether it be right at the student level in universities, or publicly, or with government and things like that. So those two are some people how I sort of come to mind in terms of, well, what does success look like? Um, yeah, that's what I feel. And it's not about the numbers; it's about engagement, and it's about um, being honest and changing your cultural approach to working with people and teams, and discussing difficult subjects.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think there's one of the little models that I use a fair bit is that so many business owners think that their job is to worry about the team, to worry about the customers, and to worry about the business.
Hmm.
And if you get it right, it's more of a circle.
Hmm.
If you look after the team, then the team can look after the customers. The
Exactly.
customers will look after the business, and the business can look after you.
Exactly. Exactly. You're
And
right.
it's sort of that virtuous circle. And it's so you talk about Sabine there and her ability to communicate difficult, tough, and sometimes wearying messages
Yes.
to people. I mean, you're running a business in a challenging field with a team. How do you apply her lessons to the communication that you have to do?
Um, Starting with a positive perspective is one, and trying to find ways where people feel like that they have made some kind of engagement or difference. Um, and I just came back from the Scottish Renewables Conference, and that is one prime example where, you go to listen to people talk, or, you go to hear so experts or government representatives and things, and you get it's a very, very long game. Dealing with a renewables project or dealing with an aspect of climate change or emissions reductions or something like that is a very, very long game. 10 years, 20 years, and you wait. It seems to change every government cycle, and that is extremely like, demoralizing and draining. So I try to make sure that there are ways that the team understand that they are actually, they're doing something constructive and positive, and it is making a difference to some people's lives somewhere, and this is how. And giving people the sense that there is a connection between what they're doing and like either a client or a certain difficult industry issue, and it might not be talked about widely, or it might not be uh you know be shouted from the rooftops, on one of these events type things, but it does matter. And um, that's what I sort of keep trying to remind people about, that it's really great that you've taken this little step, and it's really great you can see the results of that little step, and you know, it will have a knock-on effect. And you have to understand that it's a very long game, and not to be disheartened and disengaged, that's the challenge, is to keep that engagement ongoing.
I had the privilege. I used to work in the government veterinary world, and
Mm,
I had the privilege of working alongside some incredible scientists and talking to folk who were sort of 20 years into trying to find vaccines for TB for
mm,
cattle against TB.
yeah,
And yeah, every time they do another experiment, you get somebody turn around and say, "Oh, don't you feel downhearted that yet another experiment's failed and you haven't found a vaccine?"
yeah,
And it was the attitude that they had that was, well, it's not a failure.
no,
It's been a great experiment. We've found another way that doesn't work. We're one more step closer to that solution.
yeah, exactly.
And it's yeah. Is it a glass half empty or is it a glass half full?
Yeah, you're right. It's all about perspective, isn't it? All the time. That's the only way you can get through these long game, difficult challenges.
So what's the vision? Where's Vekta going to be in 5 years?
Yeah, so we we're currently in a sort of pivot phase at the moment where we're bringing, or we have brought, certain like digital tools to market, and really sort of trying to focus in on software as a service more. So we want to be much more present in bringing like data and tools and access to more trusted information from lots of different sources, to people within the industry, or people in universities, or engineers, loan consultants, people like that. So we want to be able to have um, lots of great collaborative partnerships with, people like the Crown Estate, people like the renewables trade bodies and things like that. And we've already started down that step. And you've got the catapults as well, if you've heard of those. You've got various government-backed catapult groups who are, generally sort of very relied upon in terms of like technical influence with the industry. So partnerships with those is something we've also been working on. And um, ultimately we want to be able to also have the base tools to be able to give other people the ability to develop their own ideas and their own innovations. We that will come in like a software development kit, and we can't be the answer or the be all and end all of the best product or the most popular software products of that. It's more about enabling other people to develop their own ideas by having access to the information that the industry like typically relies on, because it's all over the place at the moment. Like mapping layers are here, or government statistics are there. Turbine reference data is over there in America, and there's lots of, wind speed is on 4 different websites, and it's just bringing that together in a place that people can at least start to work from constructively is the idea. And I want to be able to. We're a team of 18. I want to be able to double the team, and sort of keep within 50 people ultimately, and we want to be able to sort of grow our revenue 2 or 3 times by that stage as well, um, and become more and more of a trusted partner within the industry, and hopefully up to government body as well, government level as well.
Fantastic. So, yeah, I mean, that's a pretty substantial team, 18 of you. What's the biggest learning you've had as an employer since you started the business?
Um, Dealing with different people, so yeah, the challenges of while I've worked in big teams over my career, and certainly and managed individuals or small teams over the time, uh, that I was working in like say the corporate and utility world and things as well. So, um, making how to engage, keep people engaged, and how to also, I've learned a lot about like hiring the process as well, and about how to think about hiring someone from a different perspective and their focusing on whether they match or whether they also want to, that kind of culture to flourish. Do they want to be in a position of service rather than a position of personal gain? Distinguishing people's different motivations, what they enjoy, how to keep people engaged by not constraining them to do one specific job. You're only hired to do this, and this is what you're going to do, and blah blah blah. And we've having to adapt without. So when you're a small team, everyone has a big impact, and if people want to pivot in different directions, then it can also have the ability to pivot the business. So um, it's how to enable that. That's been quite a big challenge. And that's on top of all the sort of logistical side of trying to run an SME and trying to learn about all of the issues that are around that, everything from tax to cash flow to P&L to grants and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, and clients, managing invoices and accounting and everything like that. There's all of that kind of stuff's been a significant learning curve for sure.
So, what would your advice be to the 18-year-old Charles starting out in his career?
Um, the advice for the 18-year-old me, I think that I sort of rushed into some things that it would have been better spent trying to find a way to have a better, more solid foundation at the beginning of. You might have a great idea, but there are some things that you couldn't do better to give yourself a better foundation at the beginning. And what I mean by that is, for example, I rushed into there's a couple of things. Rushing into employing someone because they might have been brilliant on paper at the time, or maybe because you got access to a free scheme or something like that. That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the right person for a specific role that you really need. Because when you're agile and you have to move quickly, um, having the right people who share that kind of drive and share that vision is critically important. Otherwise, all it does is just cause slowdown in the long term. So that's one thing. But um, setting yourself up with the right kind of like support mechanism, understanding that there is like parts within the industry that if you're in renewables, for example, there are people and um, who are very, very helpful, and there are support mechanisms available from governments and local bodies and stuff like that. And try and learn as much as you can about that so that you understand what your like backup situation could be. You understand, well, who do I need to fall back on, and who is going to give me help or be able to offer help, and who isn't. Who talks and who walks, I suppose, is one thing I would advise upon. And always keep like an open mind is another thing. That I used to be at that age was probably like dead cert on something that I wanted to do, or there was only one subject matter that I wanted to focus on in engineering and things like that. It's the preparation to remain agile and open-minded and not be sort of too hyper focused on micromanaging something. Um, that's what I would advise, because then that just leads into distrust, or it leads into um, not fostering trust within the people that you want to, build a team out of. That's a really difficult one to overcome, and it's still a challenge now, even after 20, 30, 25 years. But um, not giving up hope on the ability to trust the people to do what you want to do collectively as a company and as a team. Yeah, try and find ways to make that work.
Yeah. No, it's fabulous. It's you know, listening to you talk about that focus on getting making the difference, getting the results for the client, for focusing on the purpose of the business rather than the purpose comes first, the financial reward sort of follows along rather
Yeah,
than being the driver. That piece of sort of servant leadership where you're empowering your team, getting the right people in and empowering them,
yeah,
and getting the communication right it's brilliant to hear, and absolutely look forward to watching the next 5, 10, 15 years, and bringing that team up to just short of that 50. Helping us make use of the wind that's rattling around outside
I know, I know. I'm
our windows.
expecting there'll actually be a shutdown if it hasn't already happened, unfortunately, because it'll go past the wind speed limits of most of the turbines. But we'll see what the naysayer results are about. Well, how much damage and curtailment is it going to cause? And while wind turbines have their limitations, it's still very fast. 25 meters a second is a very fast wind speed, but I
Yeah,
think today it will be exceeded. So.
yeah, yeah. Well, we wish you all the best, and thank you very much for sharing all that with us today.
No, no, thank you for the opportunity. And yeah, it's really great to meet you and to talk through this. And yeah, I really appreciate it.